I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be why you can't change people. Well, I've got two emails here from two different viewers that I'm going to go through. And basically what's similar about them is in some way, shape, or form, they're trying to change the other person, or they're projecting their ideal image of what they really want in someone onto this imperfect person, and becoming upset that they're basically not reacting the way they want. And a big part of this is to be yourself, to accept yourself, and to state what you are, who you are, and what you want in a relationship. Because when you're in a relationship with a woman, or you're dating a woman and you start acting weak and you let her push you around, she's going to see you as weak, and that's what's going to cause her to become bitchy, and you're going to have lots of drama and lots of problems, because if you don't stand up for yourself, the woman's not going to feel safe and very comfortable with you. So let's get into this first guy's email. But before we get into it, I got a quote I want to share with you. It says, "People don't change who they really are. They may become a better version of themselves, but their true innate nature will not change. It is not your job to fix someone, be their therapist, or try to make them into your ideal image of them. When you don't accept and love another as they are, you will suffer when they predictably don't live up to your unreasonable expectations. It's always better to be the best version of yourself and seek someone who is doing the same, instead of bullshitting yourself into believing that trying to change yourself into what you think they want, or trying to change them into what you want, will make you happy. Only self-love, self-acceptance, and being loved by someone who accepts you for you will truly make you happy in relationships." So let's get into the first one. The guy says, "Hey Corey, I love your stuff and I could really use some advice. I'm 35 and I'm very recently separated from my wife and the girl that I've been with for 19 years. Yes, we started dating when I was 16 and she was almost 20. So you were a minor? Well, maybe that's the way the laws are in your state, dude." He says, "Well, we had a lot of good times, but it's been a rocky 19 years, mainly because every time she pulls her shit, I always call her out on it and put my foot down." He says, "I've noticed that she's become more independent and extremely selfish towards me and our two kids over the past few years. I finally had enough and told her about a week ago that I was over it and leaving, which I did," he puts in parentheses, "and that my marriage is my top priority. I told her that if and when she decided to make it her top priority as well, to give me a call. Otherwise, I'm moving on with my life and looking forward to meeting somebody that I'm more compatible with." Well, good for you for finally getting to that place. That's what it takes in anything in life, whether not only your intimate relationships, but your career, or maybe you want to lose 50 pounds, or you want to turn your business around, or maybe you want to start a business, is that people won't change until they get to the place where it's like they hit rock bottom. They're just like, fuck it, I've had enough of this. And that's basically where he's gotten to. He's finally just got to the place where he's had enough of this. If she's unwilling to show up and act lovingly, because obviously he's been with this woman for 19 years, and it's just like Gerald Celente, the Trends Research Institute, says, current events tend to form future trends. It's like people don't change who they are. If she's going to act this way because that's who she is, or if you've allowed her to act this way and walk all over you, and it's just now taking you after 19 years to finally stand up to her and just say, I've had enough of this bullshit. He says, "I have been unhappy for years, but find myself dealing with a huge array of emotions. One minute I'm happy and confident and looking forward to meeting a new woman, and the next morning what seems to be the end of our relationship and missing her." He says, "I've taken your advice and I deal with these emotions when they come up, taking time to let it out, and it does seem to be helping." Well, it's a process. When you're suffering or you're going through a difficult time, it's like, just like you said, one day you're like, you feel great, and the next morning you wake up, you're like, oh, my marriage is in, and this fucking sucks. Well, you got to be present with those emotions. You have to feel it to heal it, and it's a process. It's not like flipping a light switch on or off. And even though all of us as human beings would love to be able, when things don't feel good in life, just to flip off and turn off our emotions so we don't feel those icky feelings. But the more you resist that stuff, the more it will persist and grow and expand in your life. And that's why just little by little, each day when those feelings come up, you got to take time for yourself and feel it, acknowledge what you're feeling. I feel like shit right now. I'm really sad that my marriage is potentially ending. I'm really sad that my wife's not willing to make the effort. Because at the end of the day, it takes two to make a relationship work. And it's like, if you've read my book, then I got to that place with some of the women I dated. It's just, you realize, like one of the women, she was just a fucking awful communicator. As much as I loved her, and I loved her family, and I loved having her in my life, it's just when, after 3-4 years, you just get tired of putting Humpty Dumpty back together again all the time, because you realize that they're just not going to change. If someone's devious by nature, like this particular former girlfriend of mine was, it's like, you can't fix that. As much as you want her to change, that's just the way she's going to be. He says, although I have many questions and will be booking a coaching session with you, my main concern at the moment is this. If I had a magic wand, my choice would be to change her attitude and rebuild this marriage. However, I am not willing to go back with her unless she can change her selfish and sometimes deceitful ways. The odds of that just ain't good, bro. You've been with her 19 years. Has she changed any of it? Obviously, this isn't the first time you've talked about it with her. He says, I need to change her heart, not her mind. He says, the only thing you really do is accept it. This is the way your wife is, and love her the way she is. And then obviously, if that's not going to work for you, then your only option is to leave, because they expect her to completely change, especially when you've got almost 2 decades by staying with her and putting up with it. There's been no consequences for her. And, at this point in her life, it's like people don't change who they are. If she learned to be devious like this former girlfriend of mine was, it's like you can't fix that. That's just the way she's always going to be. Let some other poor bastard deal with it. He says, also part of me wants to move on, but while moving on, I want to make her regret her decision to not try. Is this normal? Yeah, it's like any time a breakup happens, we always want the other person to suffer more. I say a lot of times most people tend to do it. Not me at this point in my life, but when I was younger, I used to think that way. Because you feel better about yourself. Because if you can feel good, like, hey, I'm moving on, this is great, I'm going to find somebody better, and they're, ooh, I want you back, then you feel better about yourself because you're the one that was the dumper and not the dumpee. But you don't have to be an asshole about it. It's just, it is what it is. Your wife is the way she is, and after 19 years, you're obviously realizing that she just ain't going to change her true nature. And it sucks, because I'm sure there's a lot of things you love about her, but obviously all this other crap, it's just, you can't fix that. Your choice is either to love and accept her as she is, or to say, I'm out of here. I'm going to go find what I really want by focusing on myself and becoming the best version of myself, so I can attract somebody into my life that's actually healthy and not a dysfunctional jackass. He says, I get very pissed when I think of her being with another man. However, she claims she wants to remain single and has no desire to date because she doesn't want to have to answer to anyone. He says, I was not possessive and have been more than reasonable with her over the years. When she wants to go out with the girls, I tell her to have a good time, etc. But she claims she doesn't like to even have to tell me what she's doing. She just wants to be independent. I'm 100% positive she's not having an affair, so that's not the issue. What would you recommend to be my next move or my attitude around her? Should I just let this go and really move on? Well, you've already told her, you put your foot down, you just said, hey, unless you're willing to make the effort, it's over. It takes two to make it work. It doesn't sound like sounds like she's kind of resigned herself to be like, hey, I'm looking forward to having my independence back. So the best thing you can do is do what you said. Be congruent with your words. You told her, I'm out of here unless you're willing to work on this and improve these things that are an issue. And I didn't see anything in here where you mentioned where she is even entertaining that idea. So at the end of the day, the reason you're suffering and you're struggling with this is because you want reality to be different than it is. You want her to be different than she is, but you've known her for a long time, dude, and she just, unfortunately, people just don't change who they are. So let's get into the second email. He says, Dear Coach, I purchased your book and I loved it. It's boosted my confidence and everything, and I have a bit of a situation. I'm in love with a woman, and she says she loves me too. She says she's addicted to me and cannot be without me. She says I'm her balance for life, but she is unfortunately married to a guy from a different culture. That's kind of a big problem. She's married. It's hard to have a good, healthy, effortless relationship with someone when they're married to somebody else. Because at the end of the day, she was unhappy with him, so what? She cheats with you. And as much as you want, it's like kind of the same thing as the other one. She's devious. She's cheating on her husband, just like the previous guy's wife is. She's devious with him. It's like you can't. That's just her nature. You know, it's kind of like the scorpion and the frog analogy. You know, there was a frog swimming around the pond. The scorpion's like, "Hey, dude, I got to get across the pond. Can you carry me across on your back?" He's like, "You're a scorpion. You're gonna sting me." And he's like, "Hey, I wouldn't do that. You know, if I sting you, then you're gonna sink and die. And then I'll die with you, and we'll both die." And then the frog goes, "Okay, that makes sense." So he hops on his back. He starts swimming across, and like middle of the lake, sure enough, you know, the scorpion stings the frog. He's like, "What the fuck?" And then so as he's sinking below the water, he's like, "What'd you do that for?" He's like, "I'm a scorpion. It's what I do." He says he is cold, rude, and cannot meet her standards. She is a foreigner and moved here because she married him. We both are from the same culture. She's tried to divorce him a few times. Last time she even moved out of the house, it was at my place for 2 weeks. But for some reason she got scared and moved back in. He says the guy and his family have been blackmailing her to take the daughter away completely away from her in case she divorces. I have broken up with 2 girlfriends because of her. In other words, you're changing your life in order to bend yourself into a pretzel to try to accommodate this woman. And what does she do? She just runs off back to her husband. He's like, do you really want to be in a relationship with a woman that's got all this other bullshit going on in her life? He says, we have had so much drama, and she has helped me in various occasions, like finding a job in my related field of study. I really, really don't know what to do. Neither does she. Well, that's why. Because you're not being a man and making a decision. You're sitting around waiting for her to be the leader. That does not create attraction. What you need to do is focus on you and take care of yourself. You say, look, I love you, I want you, but you need to resolve that situation. If you want to stay with your crazy husband because you're afraid of losing your daughter, then, you know, good for you. But I can't do this middle of the road, having you come and be with me for 2 weeks, and then you go right back to the asshole, and I'm like stuck in the fence with my life in limbo. That doesn't work for me. So if you want to be with me, then be with me. If not, it's been real because I'm out of here. Because I feel like she's afraid to take the last steps and let the guy go. She told me that things are so good between us that sometimes she gets scared. Too good to be true sort of things. He says, lack of capability to make a decision makes her act nosy towards me sometimes. When she is distant, I also go away and make her find a way to reach out to me. 2 days ago, she was in the same gym and I simply walked away. Then she called me and I didn't fight. I just told her that what she said was rude, and I'm not ready to get those responses neither from her nor anyone else. What do you suggest I do? Tell her what you want. You've already stated it, and you got to be congruent with your words. Because what's going on here is you're not standing up for yourself. It's like on one hand, you're saying one thing, and then when she goes and runs off and blows you off to go back to her husband, it's like you sit around and you wait on her. You're enabling her behavior by continuing to acquiesce to her unreasonable demands and going along with it. And so one of two things are going to happen. You need to stand up for yourself, state what you want, and you need to be congruent with those words. You can't say it and then 2 days later go back on it because you really like hooking up with her or whatever. And the thing you understand is you can't have a healthy relationship with a woman that's got all this kind of drama and bullshit in her life. And this is just the nature of how she is. And plus she's cheating on her husband, and you keep ignoring that particular fact. You can't fix the fact that she's devious. And it sounds like she's got the best of both worlds. She's got you to run to when things get bad with her husband, and then she can always go back to her husband because he doesn't want to divorce her. So she's got the power because neither one of the two of you are willing to man up and stand up for what you want. My advice is get the fuck away from that situation and go find yourself a woman that doesn't have all that bullshit going on in her life, and don't get mixed up with a woman like this again in the future. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is go to my website, click the products tab, and book a paid phone coaching session. And I will talk to you soon.